Hello guys, today we're talking about how to negotiate with credit cards to get a better deal so you can pay off your credit card bills and medical bills. We're going to throw medical bills in there also. Alright, today we're talking about how to negotiate with credit cards. Guys, this really is a lot easier than it seems. Now, first of all, credit cards are going to work with you more if you have good credit. So let me just preface all this by saying if your credit is totally messed up, they may not want to work with you because you have proven in the past that you're not going to pay, so they don't want to work with you. So you may have to, at the beginning, just work on making sure you pay every single minimum payment on time for every single thing you owe. Okay?
And that includes your regular bills, like your electric bill and your gas and all that.
Car payment and all that.
Everything needs to be paid on time. That's the number one first priority.
So if they don't work with you because your credit is messed up, give it 6 months and pay every single thing on time for 6 months. And then you can go back and ask them, all right, how did we negotiate when we had credit card debt and we were desperately trying to get out? Well, one of the things that we did was when we got 0% offers in the mail, we would transfer our high interest credit card to the low interest credit card so that we took that 24% interest and took it down to 0 by transferring the card. Now, at the time we did it, with the exception of one time, it was always a free transfer fee. There was no transfer fees or anything like that. But you need to look and see, because one time we paid a $75 transfer fee, but by doing that, we got 18 months at 0% interest, so that we saved, I can't remember for sure, but it was some ridiculous amount, like $3,000 in credit card interest. So look and see and do the calculations and see. It might be worth paying a transfer fee if you have to do that. And then when you get that card on 0%, hammer it out and get every single penny you can on there to get it paid off quick.
And one thing Tara didn't mention just now was when we first started, we were paying bills on time, but we still didn't get 0% offers right then.
Yeah, we started at what, 6%, I think?
Yeah, what happened is we had a higher rate, and then I think they made us an offer for something like 6.9%, and then we transferred it to that for a while, and then they made us an offer for 3.9% on a different card, and we transferred it. And there's a little bit of maintenance to keep track of, keeping it where it's not doing a lot of interest. And then we went from 3.9 to 2.9 to 0. And then after that, they would offer us 0% things all the time because we had made a lot of habit of paying it off on time. And the idea is when you get that lower percentage rate, then if you pay the same amount of money as before, or as much as you can beyond that, like you can even spend more than that, you'll pay off that debt really fast.
Now, how did I keep track of that? I just had a little notebook. And what I did was I wrote the name of the credit card, the last 4 numbers, the interest rate, and when it expired. Then I went on my calendar and wrote 2 to 3 weeks before it expired that a credit card was expiring at 0% on X date. We need to start transferring it to another one. And that way, it gave me enough time to find another card to put it on. And it got to the point where for us, we had 2 credit cards and we would switch between, what was it, Citibank, and who was the other one?
I can't remember. There's MBNA at one point.
MBNA, yeah. So we got to the point where Citibank and MBNA, and we would put it on Citibank for 0, and then we transfer it over to MBNA, and then Citibank would send us another offer, so we transfer it back when MBNA expired. And so I just kept track of that in just a little notebook. So we just had 2 credit cards that we went back and forth to get our debt and medical bills paid off. And so don't make it really complicated, but do understand the point of getting that 0% is to get it paid off quick so that you can get all that extra money piled on there fast and get it paid off.
Now, there are two really, really critically important things on this that you need to remember. If you don't have your spending under control, do
Yeah.
not attempt to do
No.
this. Because if you get a transfer
Mhm.
to another card and then you keep spending money, you're going to really bury yourself in
Well,
debt.
and you cannot use that card to spend for other things.
That was my other thing is
Yeah.
if you make sure that if you get an offer, it says on balance transfers.
Mhm.
If it says purchases, then your balance transfer won't have the lower rate.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that it says balance transfers and even confirm that with them on the phone. I'm transferring the balance and my balance that's transferred is going to have no interest, right? And if they say that's correct and you've read the paperwork and it says that's correct, if you charge other things on the same card, they're going to charge interest on those things while you're paying off the 0%. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
And when we had those credit cards, we never carried them, never used them at all. They were in a drawer, never ever use them for anything else except for that balance transfer to sit on there. So that's really super important that you do not use those credit cards to buy anything else on them.
Yes. And another thing that we did just to make sure we had plenty of offers, because at that time it would maybe be 6 months that you get 0% and then it's going to go up to a higher rate.
Yeah.
So we realized we have to transfer it off of there before it goes to the higher rate, or we're going to be paying interest on that. And so what we did is we would get offers in the mail and we would open them up and we would read them carefully and make sure we understood it's for balance transfers. And then we would save them together in a folder for the next several months. And when it came time to transfer, Tara would pull all the offers out that we had gotten and look at them and see which one looked like the best offer at that time.
Yeah. Now, what do you do if you don't get balance transfer offers to put it at 0% or a lower percentage? Then call your credit card. Even if your credit card is 29% right now, call them and say, I am really trying to get my credit cards paid off. Can you give me a better interest rate so that I can work on getting this paid off? Now, they may say, sure, we'll lower it down to 6.9% or 17% or
You'd be
whatever.
surprised how much they'll come down a lot of times if you just ask.
Yeah, a lot of times they will come down, but you have to ask. And you just have to be sincere. And that's all you have to say is, I'm really trying to get this credit card paid off. Is there any way I can get a lower interest rate on this? That's all you have to do. Call every single credit card and ask them that. Every single thing that you owe money on for like credit cards, store cards, furniture stores, call and ask them if you can get a lower interest rate.
Now, you can also ask if they'll take the fee off.
Yeah, and ask if they'll take the fees off too. Now, another thing is if you're accidentally late, like we were accidentally late on our credit cards a couple of times due to a family emergency, call them. We have never had to pay a payment when we were late because I called them and I explained, I said, I am really sorry I missed this. My grandfather had a heart attack. He lives 1,500 miles away. I had to go right then, and the bill came while we were gone with him.
And we didn't know the bill was there.
And I didn't know it was there. Can you please take off this overcharge fee? I have the payment in the mail right now. Every single time they've taken it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't accept late fees when it's truly an emergency. Now, if you're continually late every single month, they're not going to
help you.
Helpful. But if it's truly just happens occasionally, ask them and they'll take off those fees. Now, medical bills. Oh boy, we really got hammered with medical bills, and this will be part of our story, but the gist of it is we ended up with $12,000 in medical bills when our daughter was born because Flight for Life wasn't covered by the insurance. What we didn't know at the time was you can work with the hospitals, and usually they will give cash discounts, or sometimes they can work with you and help you figure out ways to pay for it. So like one time, we know a couple that their baby was born prematurely and they didn't have the insurance to cover it. Well, come to find out that baby was able to get on disability for that, and the disability was able to cover most of everything. It was like $150,000 worth of medical. So check and see if you qualify for Medicaid. And then if you've checked those things, work with the hospital and say, we don't have insurance, or our insurance didn't cover this. What can we do to work this out?
And a lot of times they're charging a higher rate because they're just taking advantage of insurance companies.
Yeah.
And they'll oftentimes negotiate with you a much lower rate. We also knew somebody else who had a similar situation with the baby, and their income was super, super low. And I don't think they requested it, but the hospital saw their income and just said, we're going to cancel this bill. Now, you shouldn't expect that to be the case, but that's why we don't recommend transferring medical bills to credit cards,
Yeah.
because there are various things that can happen to cause the amount of money you owe to be less or nothing. And so if that's the case, it would be better to negotiate with them a lower rate rather than put it on a credit card.
Yep. So that's how you negotiate with credit cards. It's actually pretty simple. Just call and ask.
And don't be afraid. A lot of people are thinking, well, I don't know what they're going to say, so I'm afraid to call. No, just call them. It's just a person on the other end. It's only business to them. They don't know who you are. There's no reason that you need to be afraid to call them. Just call them and ask.
Yep.
People ask all the time, and oftentimes they're allowed to say yes, but they won't say yes if you don't ask.
Well, and what's the worst that'll happen? They'll tell you no, and you're right in the same spot where you were.
Yeah.
Big
And
deal.
there are times, as far as your emotional thing, you have to get your emotional thing. I think I'm sounding like your mom. You have to get your emotions under control, because we did have, when we were doing a balance transfer one time, we were doing a transfer and they said, well, why are you going to this other card? And we said, well, because they're giving us a lower interest rate than you. And the lady said, well, isn't that kind of dishonest? And we're thinking, no, it's totally according to your terms of service. And your company has done similar things against us when it was to your company's benefit. So in that, it's not emotional. It's just business. Just think of it as it's only business.
It's a business transaction.
Do whatever legal thing on the terms of service is allowed. So if you're allowed to switch balance, transfer your balance.
Yep. So that's how you get a lower interest rate on your credit card. Just call, guys. You might be surprised at the answers that they give you, because a lot of times they say yes.
And if they don't say yes today, today, call them again in another month or two.
Yeah. Call them in 3-6 months when your credit starts getting better, and then they might work with you more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Please visit us at livingonadime.com, and we will see you guys next time.